From the last sharing, we have learned that hackers out there are not interested in your computer. They are more interested in your information and your data. Cybersecurity is all about you. The ultimate aim of cybersecurity is to retrieve all the targeted data, either for them to sell it away or tagging on the data to access into more systems and to retrieve the data they are ultimately looking for. The value of the data will depend on how deep they can hunt into. Data into the environment is key, and protecting data is a must. Today, we will be learning on the core and essential elements about cybersecurity. Every product, policy, and thoughts about cybersecurity will be touching on all the elements of a CIA Triad. What we will be learning on and touching on for today will be the core concept. And putting into layman's terms, it will mean the heartbeat of cybersecurity, and there will be the CIA Triad. This is an important and essential concept in cybersecurity. All cybersecurity setup in terms of infrastructure, top management, tabletop exercise, or any round table discussions will need to follow and ensure the balance of these three core components. Without the balance of these three core components, your cybersecurity setup will not be complete. The three key components will be confidentiality, integrity, and availability. We'll also be learning about the opposite of these three components, and hopefully it will give us a better and clearer picture straight away. And also end off to share with you all how to balance these CIA triads and what exactly is this concept behind the cybersecurity elements. CIA triads, the key to better cybersecurity protections, will depend on the three key elements and components of the CIA triads. The decisions and ability to balance the three key components of the CIA triads will ensure vital cybersecurity protections and also help companies to avoid compliance issues, help them to ensure business continuity, and also help to prevent reputational damage to the company. Well, and for individuals like us, this is also important, as we will need to know how to ensure smooth protection of our data without unauthorized access, modifications of the data, and also the ability for us to retrieve the data within the acceptable time frame. So, from the triangle itself, those highlighted in red are the opposite meaning of the key components of the CIA triads. And I hope after going through, it will give you a clearer view of what is the CIA triads. Disclosure is opposite of the core components of confidentiality, followed by the destruction, which is for integrity, and denial will be for availability. So we know that if a data is being denied, that means it's not available to the user anymore. So after reviewing this, I hope now we have a better picture of the CIA triads. The first component we'll be looking at will be confidentiality. So when we talk about protecting confidentiality, we are referring to the ability to define and enforce certain access level for the information in the systems. The question we need to ask will be who need to access to the information and how sensitive is the information. And you are able to add on to ask what will be the amount of damage be like if this is breached. Confidentiality is about how to gain access to the system and to the right user itself. So now let's go through some of the most common confidentiality attacks, and that will be installing spyware, malware on the servers, cracking encrypted data, man-in-the-middle attack, and data leak. The first on the list will be installing spyware, malware. That's the cheapest and the most common way of attack. In this attack process, the malware is finding ways to gain access to the systems. They can be in terms of key loggers in the system trying to read your password in the background. Next, will be cracking encrypted data. This will be considered a higher level of access granting to the systems. In a secure environment, most of the files are encrypted, including password files. Cracking or decrypting these files will allow the hackers to gain access to the systems. A man-in-the-middle attack is like eavesdropping. When you are sending your password or data online, the hackers will try to get in between and spy on it, and hoping for a chance to get the password. The worst-case scenario will be data leakage and unauthorized copying of sensitive data. Your password will be given out straight away, and hackers will be able to gain access to the systems right away. Don't be worried about all these attacks. We'll be sharing more in terms and details of all these attacks in near future. The next component will be integrity, the big and middle I in the CIA Triads, which stand for data integrity. It measures and ensures the data are protected and designed to be protected from deletions or modifications from any unauthorized party. Any modifications must come from an authorized party with the right access. Do double check. The key here is the right person must be authorized and having the right access. The following attack methods will allow and result in modifications without authorizations. It will destroy data, as this data will no longer be safe or good for usage anymore. Gaining the ability to remotely access to the systems in any administrator right is a big no in cybersecurity and also in any network administrator conducts. Not only does it fail integrity, but also confidentiality. This will be the same for any unauthorized database scans. Once a hacker can gain access to the system after the scan and be able to modify the data in the system, or worse, if they are able to change the access rights or change the passwords to deny all future access, it fails both confidentiality and integrity. The same goes for maliciously accessing to the servers and carry out the web penetrations for malware insertions. First, they will try to gain access and gain control of the system, which works against confidentiality and modifies the data, which fallbacks to a no in integrity. So we can now see the patterns of confidentiality and integrity. You must get through confidentiality before you can touch on integrity. The last component will be availability. Authentication mechanism, access control, and other systems have to work properly for the protections of the data. But the measure in place must also ensure that it is available when it's needed. The key measures for this will be the timing to retrieve these data or information when required. We doesn't want to have a systems that are so highly secure that when you require data, it will take months or years to retrieve that. That defeats your operations and will disrupt your operations. You will not want to have confidentiality and integrity so strong that your availability is compromised. For example, to access to a company payslip, you will need to key in your password, have a one-time PIN, go through your iris scan, that means your eye scanning, and then wait for your managers to approve and so on. Though in this case, the security is tight, I would say it's super tight, and the confidentiality is so strong, but the time taken to access the data is way too long. It doesn't meet the requirement of cybersecurity. Let us now go through some of the common attacks in the last leg of the CIA Triads. Firstly, flooding the targeted server with many PIN requests. This is known as distributed denial of service, commonly known as DDoS. This is the easiest form of attack, and such attack can be performed by a beginner hacker. There will be more of a physical disruption kind of attack, which will be disrupt the server room power supply. And if you do not have a UPS, uninterrupted power supply as a backup, the system will go down and it will not be accessible anymore. This will mean that you fail your protections measure. The worst nightmare will be ransomware attack. We can tell by its name itself that this is a serious attack. What it does is that it will lock the systems or the servers in which the data is at rest and demand a high price to unlock the data. The ransomware currency is commonly in Bitcoin, which means payment mode or heavily done in Bitcoin. There's no way to trace the attacker. And when I say lock the data, there will be a lot of times whereby the ransomware will also encrypt the data. And there are many cases and many times in the industry whereby companies make payment to the ransomware attackers, but they still couldn't get their data back. These attackers will demand for more Bitcoins and demand for higher pricing to release the data. So there will be no sure way of getting your data back when you meet this kind of attack. So now, what's the trade-off between these components? Now we know that confidentiality is about ensuring the right party can access or gain access to the systems. And availability is how fast you are able to retrieve your data. For example, right now, if you increase your confidentiality, what will happen to your availability? Now, for example, if you are from the sales department and would like to increase the confidentiality of you accessing to customer data, the normal way and the common way for company will be to use access control list. The system administrator will ensure that you are the right party for the access, and then you will be able to access to the data. So normally, all these are just done by a click of the button. But now, you will need more approval layer to gain access. Which way this increases confidentiality. Besides telling with the access control list, you also need to be in your office intranet systems, which is based on your locations. And every time you want to access to customer data, you will need to seek your supervisor approval. And this is whenever you want to access the customer data. So, comparing to last time, you just need to click on a folder to access. Now you will need many layers. Although the confidentiality increases, but we can clearly state that the time increases as well, but in a way that we are confident and we are very secure that the person accessing the data is you. But the time taken to gain access to data is unacceptable, and in a way, your ability fails. After understanding the fundamental of cybersecurity and their key components, let's now think, how can we put this knowledge into good use? For example, how an individual should react to cybersecurity, and how should a company view their cybersecurity posture as a whole. When you talk about cybersecurity, the triggering point will always be the cost. When you mention about costing here, we are not just talking about the dollar and cents. We are also talking about the opportunity cost and the risk cost as well. And also the operation cost to maintain your cybersecurity. So risk will also be the key considerations affecting the cybersecurity strategy in the company. From our previous discussion, we knew that high confidentiality and integrity will be the trade-off for ability. In the same way, taking a low-risk approach to cybersecurity will result in a high cost to implement cybersecurity. While if the company wants to take a high-risk approach and does not care much about cybersecurity, although their cost to spend on cybersecurity will be very low, but the risk they are taking and undertaking will be very high. The question here, and everyone needs to seriously think about, will be the appetite for cybersecurity. How much risk can you take to have such little security? Or if you are spending too much on cybersecurity and it affects your operation. So, in our next lesson, we will explore the target audience which cyber attackers are looking out for, and what is the information behind they want to obtain. We will also try to understand the different kind of attackers And what is the motivation behind all this? Stay tuned. I hope you find this video useful and interesting. And I hope you also build up your confidence in the cybersecurity community. Cybersecurity is a long journey, and the community will be there to help you along the way. Do remember to subscribe, like, comment, and share, and spread the words around.